What is going on, Pixelings? This is Bradley here, and welcome to the first episode of Craziest Nintendo Stuff this week, where we go over some crazy Nintendo stuff, which could include facts and trivia about Nintendo games, maybe Nintendo's history, or some gadgets and peripherals, or just some stuff you might not know about Nintendo. So, for the first episode, we're going to be taking a look at the Pokemon series. Let's get to it. Did you know that the beloved video game development company Game Freak was originally a video game magazine? Now, it totally was. Before Game Freak was incorporated and started making games like Pokemon or Quinty on the Famicom, they started out writing magazines. Back in the 1980s, this magazine was run by Satoshi Tajiri, and most of the art was done by Ken Sugimori. Now, each magazine was roughly 28 pages long, and they would cost 300 yen each, which would equate to about $3 in the United States. Now, the magazine started out handwritten, but it was later handled by a printing company. Now, in 1989, Game Freak became officially incorporated and moved on to build video games for Nintendo and Sega, and is currently a second-party developer for the Big N. Now, did you know that the main male protagonist in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald named Brendan doesn't actually have white hair at all? What you are actually seeing is a hat. Even Ken Sugimori of Game Freak confirms this by stating that it is a knitted hat, while underneath it, his hair is actually black. You can see in artwork for the games that his sideburns are not white at all, but instead black, like Sugimori said. Plus, you can see Brendan's black hair on the back of the character's sprite when going into battle. So, now you don't have to wonder anymore why the character's hair is white. Now, did you know that the Generation 1 Pokemon Diglett may actually have feet? We have never actually seen what the other half of Diglett looks like, but Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team seem to hint that Diglett does actually have feet. Now, in the game, Skarmory kidnaps Diglett, and when you rescue the poor and helpless little Pokemon, it confesses that its feet still feel like they're walking on air. Then the other Pokemon are shocked that the Diglett said that it had feet. Yep, now your imagination can run wild as you try to guess what Diglett looks like with feet. Did you know that the Generation 2 legendary Pokemon, Ho-Oh, first appeared in the very first episode of the Pokemon anime? In the first episode called Pokemon, I Choose You! On his very first day on being a Pokemon trainer, Ash sees Ho-Oh on his way to Viridian City, but doesn't actually know what it is. During the scene, Ash is lying on the ground with Pikachu and sees it fly over the rainbow. His Pokédex couldn't even identify it, and during episode 2, Ash tries to tell Professor Oak what he saw, but he doesn't believe him. Ho-Oh was the very first Generation 2 Pokemon to ever appear in any form of media for Pokemon, and it gave us a hint that there would eventually be more than 151 Pokemon. Now, did you know that Pokemon Snap was originally being worked on for the Nintendo 64 DD and was not a Pokemon game at all? Originally, it was just a normal game about taking pictures of the world, but Satoru Iwata brought out that there wasn't a clear motivation for people to play the game. It wasn't until Pokemon entered into the game did they find that this gave the game direction. Plus, the game saw light of day on the Nintendo 64 because the 64 DD didn't sell well in Japan and it never released in North America. So that will bring us to the end of the very first episode of Craziest Nintendo Stuff this week. Now, this might actually turn into a bi-weekly series, as in twice a month, or maybe if it does really well or something like that, we can turn it into a weekly series. I don't know. But if you like this video, you can subscribe for more videos like this in the future, and by all means hit that like button if you enjoyed it. But I'll talk to you later in the next video, guys. Bye!